Hey there. Good morning. It is Friday, March 27th. We are almost at the end of the first quarter of the year. And I'm pretty sure I'm still writing 2024 on any checks that I might have to fill out, which aren't very many these days. But welcome to the Dev Talk Show. I'm one of your hosts, Chris Gomez, here with my co-host, Rich Ross. How's it going on this Friday morning?
Doing well, doing well. It's been a busy week
Yeah.
and got some fun stuff I'm working on internally, which is always interesting. But yeah, no, having a good week.
Yeah, and it's a big week for the Microsoft community. This was the week of the Microsoft MVP Summit, and
Yeah.
I'm a Microsoft MVP. The award is here somewhere. Um, quite a few discs stacked up, which is great. It's been a very fun journey, and definitely really always fun to engage with the product teams and hear just about things. But there's so much now in the Microsoft space that is open source, especially if you're a .NET developer, that's a lot of it is. And so there's a lot that was discussed there that actually we could have talked about on the show several weeks ago. And so when it comes to open things like um, C# 15 is coming up later this year, along with the .NET 11 release. And, it'll be exciting to see what makes it, because there are a few features that have been discussed for years that maybe actually will get in. And so, that might make for a good future show to see when those have some support in either the C# Dev Kit preview or maybe Visual Studio previews. That could be really interesting. So, but you can go read about those features right now at the
Mhm.
C# website, right?
Yeah.
So we have been, if you've been following the show along, we have been on a journey to create a .NET version of the PizzaBot sample that was shown at AI Dev Days last year. I've given a ton of credit to that sample for a few reasons. I think it's one of the samples that's really gotten me to think, okay, I think I understand what we can do with this now. I've spent a couple years asking what goes beyond just conversations. And while this is a nice foot in the door, it is still conversational. And I think some of the things we'll tackle later are even beyond that, which I'm really excited about.
Mhm.
But you probably remember that we have implemented a .NET version of the pizza bot that in a little console app you can converse with it, and it will take your pizza orders. And then we took it a step further and we implemented the backend too, which is a .NET MCP server. So everything in this agent communicates with MCP server, which then turns around and talks to an API. And I think in this sample we can imagine that the API might be an existing pizza ordering API that maybe is used by web developers, but here and now in this case, an agent can turn around with the MCP tools, the pizza ordering tools, and say, okay, I'll order you a pizza, right? Which is pretty cool. But there was something they showed in that AI Dev Days video that was never discussed. And it was the little brief piece where they took orders by speaking into the microphone and talking to an avatar agent. And I said, I want to know how that works. So we have done a couple things that we're going to share with you today. There will be code making its way to the GitHub repo. But what's a little different about this, I think, is that the samples require a fair amount of code investment, that the ones that we're showing. And we're hoping to slim that down so it's more of a model that could be used at a workshop or something that we could put into an instruction type document. So what we're going to do is I'll go ahead and, I didn't get my screen ready here. And the other thing about today is we're hoping system audio works today, because that will make this pretty exciting. So here we go. And then let's get ourselves into the corner there. So this is the Cognitive Services .NET SDK samples. And the reason why I'm at this repository is that there is a feature, video avatars feature. And I should actually go ahead while we're here. I should go ahead and get this fired up too, the Foundry port.
And while you're doing that, make mention of cognitive services, something we haven't talked about in quite a while, because that's kind of, I don't want to say legacy, because they still work, but they're not necessarily generative AI model based, or the large language models and everything we've been talking about for the last 3+ years around intelligence and AI. They're using some of the machine learning models that we created years ago. I think when I first started here back in 2016, we were starting to talk about cognitive services back that far, if I'm not mistaken. But they're essentially a collection of services. They've since been rebranded, and they all fit under what's called the Azure AI services. So everything Azure AI is in one spot, all the models, all the capabilities. But you'll see, as Chris brings up Microsoft Foundry here, we've got a list of those AI services, and those used to be called cognitive services. So they're all the same thing.
Yeah, so there is some branding changes underway. But I think the reason why, because you're right, they're not legacy services, but they have existed before the rise of the large language models and the agentic web that's, coming into being right now. We had text to speech, and we had text translation and document translation. Like, these things existed prior to that. And so that's just the label they were under. However, they fit so naturally. This is my opinion talking now. I have no idea about the branding changes. Like, I don't know anything about those discussions.
Right.
But because they fit so naturally with you, almost, in fact, this is why we're here. You almost naturally want to use these services with your agents.
Mm-hmm.
That why not group them together? So we've
talked
and
about early on, early on, when the models were more simple and could only do one modality, like get text and return text, you had to do other things to integrate speech. And that's where those, and you'll see in the demo here, that's why they're important to still have around. Yeah.
And so for everything we did to do our console-based version of this, in some respects, we could pretty much do that here, because barring the function tool call to calculate how much pizza the group might need, which is a call where the agent, as we've discussed on the show, the agent basically returns, as part of its response, it returns, hey, can you do me a favor and call your local, I am told you have a function tool, because that's here in the YAML. In fact, here it is, calculate number of pizzas to order with its description. And so, but it doesn't have the implementation. Right. But what happens is is it correct for me to say the large language model asks the agent, or it's the agent that's, I'm not always sure how to frame it, but the point is that this returns back to our code locally where we have the function tool. And so if I just use the chat here, I can't use that piece, but otherwise it feels very much like our console app where I say, hi, hopefully I can say hi. Yeah. Hi. What kind of things can you help me with? And you can see I'm typing in here, and it figures out, based on the tools available to it, and the instructions, because we have our instructions. I'm here to help you with ordering pizza, checking the menu, tracking order status, and all that.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's fair to say agent and an agent. What makes an agent? An agent's got those three things, right? It's got that ability it talks to a model, the LLM. It has some kind of tools, and it has some capability to act on your behalf. So the package that is an agent does have the capability to send information over to that model, and get some kind of a return response. And then what it does with that response depends on the direction the model gave back. So you were talking about that tool. It would say, hey, they want to know how many pizzas to order. Here's the tool to go call. Now, as you said, we short circuit it because we don't have the code there, but at least would know that the tool is available.
Right. So here in Foundry, I've switched over to AI services, just as you were saying, text-to-speech avatar, and this is just what comes up. Now, this isn't connected to an agent at all, but I can type in some text. Hello, I'd like to help you order pizza is what I've typed in. And we can watch it have this avatar generate a response. And it's funny how in the playground, this generation is not as real time as I think we're about to see. And I think part of it is because I think it produces a full-fledged video instead of streaming it, because I get video scrubbing tools here.
Oh.
So I actually think that's the reason. I'm not trying to belittle this process. But unlike what we're about to see, I get a scrub, right?
Hello, I would like to help you order pizza.
And that's cool. Like I don't have a problem with that. So I could even download it and that's nice. You can even get code for like, how do I use this?
Right.
And so what you get in this particular case is this happens to be Python code to everything you need in order to have this generated. Okay, now let's take that a step further. And I was talking about the cognitive services.NET SDK samples. There in the samples here, there is, I take it back. I don't want to go to samples. I want, I thought am I in the wrong spot? Because, or did they, no? Oh, actually, I might be in the wrong spot.
Really?
Yeah, because, is it app samples? No, see, I think I'm in the wrong spot because, hold on. I apologize. Let me get I've already cloned these, so it's probably a little bit of Friday morning brain here.
Yeah, all good.
And the cognitive services speech SDK samples, I believe, is what I want.
All right.
Okay, so I just went to the wrong spot. Cognitive services. I don't want to search in the repo. I want all of GitHub. All of GitHub. And I want cognitive services speech SDK. And this is it. The Azure samples for the cognitive services speech SDK. So I've already, I put the wrong, I'll have to update the show notes later. If you were watching live, the samples repo is here. And because we're going to fire up this sample in just a second. And when you come into the cognitive services speech SDK samples, there's a samples folder, and these are by language. And I wanted C#, and then I went down to web avatar, which basically this is a sample. It uses a few different technologies to basically give you a kind of a control deck, which is kind of nice because then you can explore different features. But what I also liked about it is it was web-based, which is our target. That's my target, is to be web-based. So this is the sample here. And I'm getting that going, unless it's already going. It is not. Okay. So here's the sample here. This is what happens when you bring this down from GitHub. And this is cool because you can bring in any of the avatar characters. You could bring in your own. Like I could use, eventually I went ahead to using photo avatar instead of video avatars. And you can set lots of different things. You could, if you had your own, if you set up your own personal voice profile, this is a great little app to just test your own uploads and your own avatar, because there's a little bit of work involved in like creating your own custom one. But I'm going to go ahead, and a little known undocumented until you look at the code endpoint is /chat, because they do a full-blown chat demo. And I have to say open avatar session, and it takes a second to open this up because it's actually setting up, I think you even might know a little bit better than I do. It sets up a web socket connection, and it is but there's also streaming this video. This video is being streamed down to me.
Right. Yeah,
So
I think that's going against the AI,
right.
the cognitive services component. So that's able to happen. The audio files you're sending up to there can happen quicker than more directly via the WebSocket.
Yeah. And so you saw how quick that was compared to what happened just a second ago with the not with the sample, but in Foundry. And I still think the answer there is it's nothing to do with Foundry. It's not, we're not streaming video down. That's producing, I think, a complete video file. So you can click here and type messages, but I'm going to go ahead and go for it and see that if I can just start my microphone. I hope I didn't
Something
just use it there.
USB. There you go.
Yeah. Hello. I'd like to know what the capital of Paris is. Well, actually, I gave it away. What's the capital of France?
The capital of France is Paris.
Yeah, that was really easy, and I guess that's my bad. So how about you tell me the capital of Australia?
The capital of Australia is Canberra.
So hopefully that's all coming through, and she's going to hear me saying this. And the last thing I'd like you to do is find the capital of the United States.
The capital of the United States is Washington, D.C.
Okay, so
can she hear me?
Maybe. And in fact, I'd hit stop microphone though, so I apologize. Let me go ahead and start it in a second. But you can see that our speech is getting translated and a response is going out to an LLM and with very simple instructions. And then we're getting the answer, which is being brought back through the avatar, the video-based avatar. So there's a multi-step process happening here. And so it turns out when you look at the code required to do this, you are interacting server side with a speech token service, basically so that you can, and you're refreshing that token so that you can keep talking to the speech token service in this context. You are also going to talk, well, this particular demo may not be, but it still could be using, since it's just using like a model, it's just communicating with the model in some kind of I don't know if it's session based, meaning that I don't know if it remembers anything from one question to the next. I'm not sure that it's doing that. So we're using,
I mean, you could certainly do that, right? So just say, hey, what capitals have we talked about, or what countries have we talked about? Can you?
Let me see real quick. So which countries have you given me capitals for so far? Okay. So
there you go. So it's got history.
And of course now it's like, what are you talking about? So okay, so this must be doing something conversationally, which is fine. That's great. But I think it's fair to say that this isn't using an agent.
Well, so all the speech to text is going to do is just that. It's going to take that speech input that's coming across as an audio file and translate that to text and send that text back down the wire to you. Somewhere in your code here, it then needs to take that text and provide it to an LLM to have it give meaning or to solve the question. Yes.
Right. And you could use Agent Framework to do that with just very bare bones instructions and nothing more. And so in that case, would you be using a Foundry agent? Yes. But you could also interact with the LLM with some pretty basic code that has nothing to do with Foundry or agents at all, and it would still be just fine. That's a little different from this sample, which is a reimagining of our Contoso pizza dashboard. You remember the dashboard that we implemented. That is all essentially here now. And people have been ordering pizzas. But one of the things that this is actually hooked up to the backend that was provided for the AI Dev Days sample and the workshop.
Right.
And the reason that's important is that sample, unlike ours, I did sidestep it in our implementation for now. is that sample requires an actual user ID that has actually been registered. And when I say registered, in fact, see more people are, oh no, I'm sorry. That's it. So I implemented this filter. If I put my user ID in, then now it instantly filters to only my orders.
Okay.
So that's kind of nice but we can see that other people have been using the back end as well, because these are different orders that have nothing to do with me. Wade's order. So you can ask their API for orders, but you can filter it by your user ID. And so that's pretty cool. I love how that just pops up there. So that's a nice, this is like a reimagining of that simple dashboard that we were showing. I think it's a little cooler now. In fact, these images come from the API when you order a pizza.
Nice.
So it's all neat. But that's on the right side. On the left side, I guess I should have started this. We have an implementation of the same video avatar. She's coming, I promise. Oh boy. I hope I hope I'm not seeing.
Is the other one shut down?
It is not. And of course, that could be an issue.
And
So
while you're figuring out that, I'm going to bring up this comment here about WebSockets being used here. So for the implementation that Chris is showing that's using cognitive services, there is a WebSocket that connects to the speech to text endpoint in cognitive services. So you're getting that direct connection of, hey, here's my audio file, translate or convert it to text and send me that text back down as and then going the other way around. Here's text, send me audio file back down as speech. So that WebSocket persists across that connection. I don't believe it includes one that is talking to the LLM. That's probably just a straight REST call.
Oh, so the implementation for this dashboard is there is a in fact, you know, I was hoping this would come up a little quicker. I have noticed that when we're streaming when we're talking in StreamYard that this is a little slower. So there's so this is actually the code here. And again, there's a lot of code, so it's hard to go through in its entirety.
Yeah.
But this avatar controller is not an ASP.NET MVC controller. This is a Blazor app. But what this controller does for us is it turns around and gets it does the back end interaction. So it is getting a speech token. It is getting status. It is connecting the avatar. So and then it's got this funny little bridge where the front end JavaScript can call it with a client ID that's generated per user session, so that it can say, hey, I've got some text to send to you for this particular user, and this is keeping track of the conversations. So it's a little complex, and we might be burying the lead a little bit. Oh wow, this is not starting, or did I not click start chat? That would have been a mistake on my part. We're burying a little bit that this particular sample, while pretty cool and definitely a basis for your work, is not where we think we're going to land because of the when I say new, I don't know how new, the Voice Live API.
Yep.
So the Voice Live API feels to me a little bit more, and if I'm describing it incorrectly, let me know. That feels to me a little bit more like we recognize the confluence of agents, Foundry. Oh, look at this. It's not starting. I'm going to have to go see if there's an error because I really wanted to show the pizza ordering. We recognize, like, basically it's like I don't know if it's correct to say the Foundry team, but somebody definitely recognized it seems obvious you're going to want to use this stuff together.
Yeah.
So instead of making you build the entire bridge and roadway that connects this all up, we can take some of that burden away because the speech to text is built in to Voice Live. The text to speech is built into Voice Live. Avatar syncing, I think, is a feature you can get out of Voice Live. And instead of doing a lot of trips I believe you end up dealing with one WebSocket.
Exactly. And well, that would
Haven't implemented it yet,
website.
though. So
Yeah, the WebSocket question is an interesting one, right? Because there's in the example that I think we showed like a couple weeks ago, where it was we had that voice live capability. And what's happened is the models have gotten multimodal. They've gotten much more capable of doing some of those larger contexts. And because of that, you could include everything in one capability. It not only sends speech back down the wire, but it gives you the text that created that speech. So you're able to interrogate that, figure out those if you want to display it up on the screen or whatever.
okay. Yeah, I kind of have my fingers crossed. Now, again, I would love to see this come up. Otherwise, we're not going to have much of a pizza ordering demo. But basically, the way this works is we took a lot of the code from the SDK sample, but made a pit stop where we basically say, okay, let's send this text into our using the agent and the agent framework. Let's use that. And then when the response comes back, we can make a decision what to do, including saying, well, we don't make the decision, but basically you send it to the avatar. Yeah, okay, so it is blowing up saying unable to get access token.
Do you have to authenticate?
I'm wondering because it is complaining about authentication, which I think is weird because
I mean, you're
default
using the
Azure credential failed to retrieve a token for from the included credentials.
You
Okay.
might just want to auth log out or AZ log out, AZ log in.
Oh, I wonder if it has anything to do at all with the browser session that I'm in. Because when we stream, I use a different browser profile.
Okay.
I'm not saying
Shouldn't, I would think, because that comes off the console, not the browser.
Yeah, if this doesn't work, then I'm going to do exactly what you said. In fact, let me just double check because it shows me logged in. As some of you may know, I like to use Oh My Posh, and it is saying that I'm logged in to Azure. I basically have that as part of my prompt is what subscription am I logged into. So, but I'm glad that there was at least an error came up. So that way it's just not some voodoo thing.
Especially when it did work.
Right. We've seen it. But no, okay. Let me see if it's the same exact thing. Yep. All right. So here's what I'm going to do. We're going to shut everything down. I'm actually kind of wondering if because we're in Visual Studio, do I need to check if my account settings are correct for this? Because I think sometimes it's, let's see. The account is here. It says filtered though. Why does it say filtered? Oh, I see. Oh, yeah, because it's filtering the tenants. All right. So to your point, let me bring up, it would be AZ log out, right?
Yes.
And I don't know, when I do an AZ login, I'm going to go ahead and come off screen because I think it puts up a device code, if I remember correctly.
It can. Yeah.
Boy, even this is taking its time. Yeah, I can't get it to log out. It's just hanging. Well, this is unfortunate because...
Yeah, that is odd.
Yeah, the whole thing is just hanging. I've never had this kind of issue before, like not even close. This is always extremely responsive. So, all right. I can't even get the Windows terminal to come back up now. Okay. No. AZ logout is doing nothing.
Started the weekend early.
Yeah. Let me see if I'm going to find out if all of the actual Windows terminal instances really did go away.
Yeah. Yeah, give it that one last shot. I got like less than 2 minutes before I gotta drop.
Yep. Console window host. There's like a million of them. I wonder if that's bad. Oh gosh, there's like a bunch of them. Very weird. Okay. Okay, so I'm not 100% sure why I have a lot of console windows just sitting open. Not sitting open, but just processes open. And like I said, we had just used this. So in any case, I think where we're going to end up is that you can get started right away using this avatar sample. And I actually think it's pretty good. I'm going to go ahead. Let me see what I can bring up out of there to show what you need to use and just make sure there isn't a secret or anything hanging out there. Yeah, there is. So I'm just going to delete those real quick. All right. So what you have to do to use it is if you get the avatar sample, you can use it without actually setting a whole lot. You don't have to fill out this endpoint and resource URL. That's something that confused me for a while. Okay. I'm not even 100% sure if I needed the endpoint for the project, but you do need to put in a speech key, and you can get that speech key from your Foundry resources. I mean, I can't show it because then it'll show the key. But from the AI services section, you can get a key. And so that way it goes against your account. And you can see that there's a lot of other settings you can put in, but you don't have to. You can put in a cognitive search endpoint so that way it'll use your data. And that way the avatar might respond to an Azure AI search that you've set up. We've done that before on this show. But I got stuck with that avatar app because I thought for sure that I had to put my project endpoint in here, and you don't. This is only if you have a private speech endpoint, which you don't necessarily need just to see the sample work. And so I took out the speech key, which because it was private. But once I popped that back in there, put in the region, put in that, and then it works. It works fine. So in any case, and you got to pick a deployment name, which is fine. So in any case, all right. So let's close out of here.
All right.
Next time we'll get the pizza ordering bot working. I can't say for sure. I thought we were going to be able to order a pizza and see that dashboard go.
Yeah,
so let me make sure that it's just not something on my machine. And then next time. And again, like I said, you saw a ton of console windows open. But hey, I know Rich has to get going. I do too. Thanks everybody for joining us. Hopefully you try out the web avatar sample, and next time we'll see the pizza dashboard agent. So everybody stay tuned for the next episode of the Dev Talk Show.